Hello, New Zealand. Welcome to Political Playback. This is episode number 63 or 64, I think we're up to, and it's a special treat because Simon O'Connor is in Australia. Maybe he's trying to find Jacinda Ardern, who's just been confirmed as shifting over there. Yeah, I don't know what the big news is about that. Rodney Hide. Anyway, lovely to have you as a guest panelist. Always good to get your expertise, and I need your expertise tonight, because I need a bit of knowledge on some of the topics we're talking about. But anyway, good evening to you.
Oh, it's a great pleasure and a privilege to be here, Bob. Thank you for hosting me, for having me.
No, always good. Right, let's get into it. I mean, just in relation, I am fascinated that the media are all over this Jacinda Ardern story, which is sort of breaking just as we came to air. I mean, I'm more concerned that Helen Clark is in Mount Eden because the media can get to her quickly for comment. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, one thing I give Jacinda credit for is that I don't see her popping up in the media commenting on concerts at Eden Park and trying to legalise drugs and, you know, the other stuff.
Give her time, because she can now get her profile up whenever she likes, just being in Sydney looking for a house or meeting a mayor. But as that fades, she'll look to get into the media in other ways.
Well, the funny thing was that Simon and I were just in Sydney at a conference on Tuesday and Wednesday. You might have seen it online. So
I did.
I gave Simon a few extra days off because he's just turned the big O. I won't say what number goes in front of that, but it's the same as the number on your fingers, so on your hand. So anyway.
But here's the thing. I think it's sad, truthfully. I don't think Jacinda Ardern can live in New Zealand. I just think the level of hostility to her is so deep. We've never seen that before. I can remember walking around with Roger Douglas after he left Parliament, and very little attack. People were very respectful. There's a deep-seated anger. I know, I feel it, towards her and what she did to our country, how she divided us, how she wrecked us. And I don't think people are going to forget. So I think it'd be very, very hard for her to live in New Zealand.
And I think, maybe if Trump wanted to come and live in New Zealand, he might need the same, he might get the same response, unfortunately. We have become very divided. But look, let's get straight into our first topic. And you probably saw my blog on it. And it was, I was really just calling out politicians that they seem quick to talk about other religions. They're happy to talk about Ramadan and the details and other festivals. But I particularly just picked up Luxon's comments on both Ramadan and Christmas and compared them. And for those who didn't see it, let me just show a couple of quick extracts. So this is what Luxon said about Ramadan just last week.
As the holy month of Ramadan begins, I want to extend my warmest wishes to everyone observing here in New Zealand and all around the world. Ramadan is a deeply meaningful and sacred time, a month of fasting, prayer, reflection, and generosity. It's a time to slow down, to reconnect with faith and family, and to focus on serving others.
Okay, so it continued down that line and gave a, description. I mean, that's fine. Respecting Ramadan, acknowledging that people are doing it. But then I look back at Christmas and what was said then, knowing that when Luxon had first come into Parliament, he said that his faith was important to him. So I thought he might talk about some of the significance of Christmas to Christians. So this is what he said. Oh, hang on, as soon as my mouse works, I need a cord on this.
Well, kia ora and Merry Christmas, New Zealand. At this time of the year, it's time to finally slow down and to take a moment to be with the people who matter most, your family, your friends and your neighbours. It's time to get out and enjoy the sunshine, the barbecues, the sandy feet and the long drives, those iconic things that make a Kiwi Christmas and a Kiwi summer so special to all of us. Over the coming week, I'm thinking about those in our Defence Force, our police, our frontline.
Yeah, okay, I won't keep showing it. You've probably seen it, Rodney, but it goes on and then does a bit of a state of the nation and says, look, last year was tough, but this year's going to be better, very positive. But there was just no mention about the aspects of faith. So what is it, Rodney? I mean, you've been a politician. Is it that they don't talk about their faith because it's politically expedient? Are they scared to? Are they worried about the media response? Do politicians, should they not talk about their faith?
I think it's all of the above. But first up, let me say that your McBlog on that was the best thing I've seen on the internet this year. It was just a fabulous presentation, Bob, and chilling. A powerful expose, actually, not just of Christopher Luxon, but of our political class. And it's the sort of thing you'd expect our legacy media with big budgets to do. And the fact that you did that was just wonderful. And it was a powerful, moving piece. When I was in Parliament, I was an atheist. Even then, though, I recognised the importance of our Christian heritage, that we are a Christian country, that our Parliament is a Christian institution. And so you should always acknowledge it. Even as an atheist, I'd be upset with the loss of the prayer because you're doing away with our history. And that's what I really dislike about this, because it's a sort of ground zero, year zero sort of approach. You forget all of New Zealand's history. Even though we're maybe less and less a Christian country, it's still where we've come from. And every institution that we have is based on it. All our rights and our freedoms are based on our Christian heritage. The treaty is based on our Christian heritage. It's the only way we're going to bring people together. Of course, now I'm a person of faith. I even have a much stronger view of it. But I'm just making the point that even atheists can appreciate where we've come from as a country and what sort of country we are. We still have the sovereign as the head of our country, and it's Church of England, Christian. So the idea that these politicians run away from it is truly shocking to me, because there's a way of doing it that would be fine. Understanding that this was the birth of Jesus, we've got the crucifixion and resurrection coming up. These are powerful symbols right throughout our history. What makes it sickening, though, is that it's pandering. They're looking at it straight as votes. They know that they're not going to win any votes by pretending to be Christian and saying Christian things. And they know that the media will pick on them and start teasing them about what's their view on abortion, what's their view on this, that, and the other thing, to try and trip them up. And so they pander. So they don't do that because the media will come after them. They're scared of the media. And then they pander to votes. So they think they can get, Muslim votes. They think they can get Hindu votes. They think they can get Sikh votes. And so it's straight out pandering, and everyone can see it for what it is. Now, that's how I dislike it from every politician. From Christopher Luxon, I find it appalling because, as you said yourself, he said in his maiden speech, he's a Christian. Well, live it. Live it. No one's asking you to turn New Zealand into a theocratic state. We're just saying, live your values and be proud of who you are and what you believe. Proclaim Jesus Christ as our Lord Saviour, because that's what you believe. And if you're not prepared to proclaim that, well, I can't trust you because you told me you were a Christian. If you tell me you're a Christian, you have to proclaim that Lord Jesus Christ is your Saviour. And when you're on a platform like that, you're absolutely obligated to proclaim it. And I personally don't think he would lose a vote. I think he'd win some even from non-Christians because he'd show some bottle. The whole reason we don't like the man is that he has no principles. He's a manager. Boy, if he stood up for it, sure, the media would go nuts, and that's what he's not prepared to take. Well, Jesus took a lot more than that for us.
Yeah, I mean, you raise a very good point that I've tried to raise before, is that I wonder how much politicians, and you may be able to share from experience, it seems to me that politicians figure out a policy or an approach or a decision, and then they think to themselves, how's the media going to react to this? It seems like that is a more important consideration than actually, am I being true to my principles? Am I speaking truth? And am I being bold and strong principle on what I say? It seems like there's this risk analysis of what the media are going to say, and then they worry about that. I mean, that's the only reason that I can think that, for example, leading into the last election, Luxon said, I'm not going to touch the abortion law. It was the only policy where he says, I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to touch that law, even if good evidence had come up that it needed to be fixed. So, I mean, what is it? Is it fear of the media, do you think, Rodney?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And the great news is the media are losing their power. Just politicians haven't woken up to it because they're living in a Wellington bubble. I well remember having a discussion with John Key. And it was, remember we had the referendum on smacking Bob, which you achieved. What was the vote in favour of?
87%. 87% opposing the law.
87% of New Zealanders in a referendum, you can't get better than that, opposed the law. And I said to Prime Minister John Key, that's an easy win, just do it. And he says, yeah. But he says, if I did that, I'd have the press gallery offside day one.
Yep.
And that would be damaging. And I walked away from that, trying to figure out whether he was a great politician or whether he's the worst politician. But of course, you know what I mean? Because I thought I would have thought of what the press gallery thought of it. That should be the last thing you think about. But he was Prime Minister and I wasn't.
Okay, well, that segues into our next topic because it's about Winston, and he's someone who doesn't give a toss about what the media thinks. He tells them exactly what he thinks. And so left-wing website, the Spinoff, have released this morning, what the surge in populist nationalism means for Winston Peters and New Zealand First. And look, it's really a left-wing rant, worried. And of course, they've got that lovely image there. I mean, this image haunts the media because it's examples of basically the pushback against wokeness and lefty. That's Nigel Farage in the UK on the left, Pauline Hanson, who is polling unbelievably in Australia, Trump, and of course Winston. And in the article, it takes one pollster. So it takes Courier, which I thought was interesting that it used Courier because that's David Farrar and he's a National Party lobbyist. So, but anyway, that brown line is the election, and New Zealand First have just been going, well, you can see the trend. But this one's interesting, and I'm interested in your comment on this, Rodney, especially as an ex-ACT Party leader. The pink line is the ACT Party, and the black line is New Zealand First. And in effect, New Zealand First have become the Conservative Party alternative to the mainstream National Party. I mean, do either of those graphs surprise you?
No, not at all. And it'll get bigger. Winston will continue to rise and ACT will continue to fall. Got to admire Winston Peters. I mean, he was Trump before there was Trump. He was Nigel Farage before there was Nigel Farage. He was Pauline Hanson before there was Pauline Hanson.
That's a good point.
The longevity is astonishing. I think part of his success is that he says it but doesn't do it. So, like, you never saw him returning immigrants home. He sort of says it heading into an election and then falls asleep in government. But nonetheless, he's been tremendously successful, and I have to say I support his sentiment. And the left wing, of course, hate it with a passion because, sadly, they no longer speak truth to power. They've become propagandists for, the elite, for the existing politicians, for the status quo, and for, the UN and the World Health Organization. And they've completely forgotten about their readers and their customers who are, like me, annoyed. We don't like the existing order. No. We hate it with a passion. And the more we sever it, the more we hate it. What we've got now around the world is a lightning rod in the form of Donald Trump, because he stood up against the whole lot of them, won, and continues to be against them. And so he's powering up Winston Peters because we're seeing it in action and we're liking it. So Winston Peters will continue to go up. He's got this amazing position that he's in where he's like the best opposition MP. And he spent the first half of this term as Deputy Prime Minister, and now he's Minister of Foreign Affairs in Cabinet. So he's in an amazing position. Chris Luxon, the Prime Minister, is exceedingly weak, and Winston Peters is basically criticising him and pulling it off. And
So
people say,
why is in this graph, why the switch? Because David Seymour also has been calling it out, to be fair to David Seymour, and yet they're dropping. So why is this graph happening, do you think?
well, talent. I didn't have the talent that David Seymour's got. He's got a lot more talent than me. But Winston Peters has got more talent than him. And it's just that talent of being able to get cut through,
The X factor.
The X factor, establish the moment. He's superb at it. He's the best New Zealand has ever seen.
Yeah.
He's also not focused on delivery, like, say, David Seymour was. David Seymour was in there doing the work of government, whereas Winston Peters is doing, if you like, the showboating, would be the word to use. And he's fabulous at it. You can't beat him. And of course, no one. When Donald Trump is in another league, and he also delivers, so he's just top dog in politics at the moment. But no, Winston's just supremely good at it, and I'm not doing that to be critical of David Seymour, because anyone in Parliament, as much as he annoys you, everyone in Parliament recognises that Winston has an exceedingly rare talent.
You were talking about just the fact that sometimes Winston gets in, but he doesn't deliver on some of the policies. In fairness, there is a difference in the system, because Trump can come in, he can do executive orders, he has all this unilateral power. Sure, it gets challenged at times, whereas Winston's a bit like a mayor of a town. You can get elected mayor, but you still got to win over all the other elected officials around the table, don't you? So is that the difficulty? It's a different system. It's not quite the power that Trump has that Winston has. So he's still got to win over people, and that's quite difficult.
Yes, but you got to try.
Right.
And Winston doesn't try. And I mean, think of this. He went into 2017 saying that getting rid of the Maori seats was a bottom line. Well, when you hear that, you know exactly what that means.
Yeah, he also went with Jacinda, so
you won't form a government with someone that won't get rid of the Maori seats. I should just correct you, because we don't want to treat poor Mr. David Farrar poorly. He's not. You misspoke. He's not the lobbyist for the National Party. He's their pollster.
Pollster, sorry, you're right.
Yeah,
correct.
You're right, and so
thank you for that. It's always good to get fact checked. We don't want to be fake news like CNN, do we, Rodney?
No, and I only fact check you because I know that you would you put truth over ego.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was interesting just with the Christian adherence, because I saw this post come up just on New Zealand First just a couple of days ago, and it's Shane Jones saying our culture goes right back to the Enlightenment. It's within that context that you should see our Judeo-Christian heritage. And he says he's looking forward to campaigning on defending our culture. Is he positioning himself for the heir apparent to New Zealand First, do you think? Because, I mean, Winston's 80.
Oh, he very much so. Very, very much so. Of course, he should go back to Moses and Abraham. It's not just the Enlightenment, but no, absolutely he is. But no one's Winston.
No
one is Winston.
He's like your kindly uncle that you just love coming around for Christmas Day. That's the impression.
And even when you know he's telling a porky, he's got that grin on his face, and you think, yeah, that's Winston. Picture this. He's been an MP since 1978.
Wow.
Most of the voters weren't born when he was first an MP. He's had a couple of terms out.
So if he wins another term, he's going to have been in Parliament 50 years towards the end of the next term. Wow.
Well, he's had a couple of gaps, but yes, he was elected,
of course, 50, that's true.
50 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
And he's running against the system. You've got to admire it, right?
Exactly.
Because you couldn't, he was there before David Seymour was born. This is extraordinary. Christopher Luxon, how old is Christopher Luxon quickly?
Oh, maybe early 50s. I'll Google it while you talk.
Say he's 50, he would be born, what's that? When was our friend born, Mr. Simon O'Connor? If he was born 50 years ago, it'd be what, 19...
Luxon is 55. He was born in 1970.
Well, there you go. He was 8 years old when Winston was elected to Parliament. and Winston's attacking him for being part of the system.
Yeah, well, I was 15, so I got into politics when Muldoon was Prime Minister, so even got a written letter from him. Anyway, things have changed. Look, let's keep going. This one did amuse me because Chris Hipkins gets up, does a speech, and he says, I only want to promise stuff that I know I can deliver on, and then he basically promised nothing. I mean, should politicians be... I mean, he's being honest, but it's kind of like it's not what politicians say. If anything, if you're in opposition, my understanding is if you're in opposition, Rodney, you turn up and you basically show how bad the current regime is and you say, these are my solutions. But to just turn up and say, well, I'm not going to promise anything because I don't want to promise anything I can't deliver seems to me someone totally devoid of any decent ideas.
Yes. And he's got an appalling record. He's an appalling opposition leader. And it's a stain on our country that he could win.
Yeah, why so many people say they might vote for him?
Because this current government hasn't set out a clear agenda, hasn't been able to show what they've done, have been unable to show us how our life's better than it because they're in power. They're totally incapable of doing it. You just compare Donald Trump's State of the Union speech with any speech you'd hear from our Prime Minister. I mean, that was just a showcase. That was just... Everyone's got to watch that because here is a president saying, here's what we've done. This is what I inherited. Look at this other crowd. And then even while he was speaking, he was humiliating them.
Yeah.
It's the greatest political speech I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to showcase a few bits of it on Daybreak tomorrow morning at 7:30. So if anybody wants to see it, I'll show you the best bits because it is hilarious. Look,
you do a great job, Bob.
Thank you. Let me just show you. I'll send that. Checks in the mail, mate. I just want to show you the clip of Hipkins, what he said, and the response of Nicola Willis, the Minister of Finance, because her response, I want to ask you something about her response.
I want to know that I can deliver on any promises that I make. That's the standard that I'll be holding myself to and our next Labour government to.
Lovely.
Because frankly, Kiwis have had enough of promises that aren't kept.
Chris, no idea Hipkins. That's what I saw today. Truly ChatGPT could have written that speech, guys.
And I don't want to make promises that I then have to change.
Okay, look, Nicola Willis's response was interesting because she basically says that that Hipkins had done his speech on ChatGPT. And it raises the whole issue of how much do we want AI writing political speeches? What is the role of AI? I did see an article on Stuff where they talked about the fact that they went through some of the speeches, Luxon's recent speech. They reckon they did an analysis of Hipkins' speech and they reckon that it was naturally written. And then, of course, they went off and did one on Willis's speech in February, a month ago or so. And they said, no, part of that had AI input into it. I mean, it's a whole new ballgame, isn't it, Rodney, compared to the old days where, I mean, you probably didn't even use a keyboard. You literally hand wrote them. Or maybe you just did them off the top of your head. So how much should AI have a role?
Huge. I ran his speech through Grok. No one should be using ChatGPT. It's a shockingly biased left-wing AI, and it's dangerous. Sam Altman, I think, is a dangerous man. So I only use Grok.
Now, just to remind people, is Sam Altman the one that made the comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination? Have I got the
No.
right name? No. Okay. Take that back. Ignore that last 5
well,
seconds.
Not that I know of, but ChatGPT, for example, supports puberty blockers, puts black people ahead of white people. Remember, it had the famous thing of, you draw a picture of the founding fathers and they're all black. It's a shocking system, whereas Elon Musk, so worried was he about this because he put a lot of money in it at the start because he was worried about AI. He went in and started his own, and that is Grok. And his simple rule was it's got to be maximum truth telling because anything else is dangerous. And often the truth is uncomfortable. You run your own ideas there and it rubbishes them. But I ran it through Grok. Everyone should use Grok. And it says this. This speech has the classic hallmarks of a 2026 era political writing. By the way, it said it's 75% chance of being assisted by AI. A human or team gave the AI the key messages, the tone, and the specific attacks. The AI generated the bulk of the draft, structure, phrasing, and flow. A human then edited it lightly for authenticity and added a couple of personal touches. This is now standard practice for most political parties in New Zealand, Australia, the UK, and the US. Pure human-written speeches without any AI assistance have become quite rare at this level. So that's what Grok said.
Wow.
Isn't it amazing? But you see, this is the world we're in.
Yeah.
And we just are going to have to live with it because you can't ban it, you can't stop it. But it's a bit like using Google rather than running to the library or using the internet. We're going to be using AI. Elon Musk already says 50% of office jobs are gone. Picture that.
Funny story just about that is that we had a young commentator, a young girl from Tauranga who was writing some articles for us, just giving us a youth perspective on some issues. Still a rabidly social conservative. And one of my staffers ran her pieces through AI or through test. I can't remember if it was ChatGPT or Grok. I think it was ChatGPT, and said, how much of this is AI? And ChatGPT said most of it was AI. And yet the problem was that the op-eds, the essays were written before AI had fully developed. So she wouldn't have used AI. And so that's why you got to be really careful around.
You've got to be really careful.
Yeah. Thanks for that warning about ChatGPT versus Grok. I mean, I use Grok on X, and we're going to talk about X in just a second. But I use Grok because, basically, you can't trust anything these days, can you, Rodney?
No, and you can't trust Grok. So on critical things, I double check it, but it's just the speed of it. It's just astonishingly fast. Yeah.
No, I can't see anything about Sam Altman and things, so I'm glad I withdrew that. I think I was thinking of another guy on LinkedIn who did some. Oh, that's right. He was to do with one of the Super KiwiSaver things. I can't remember.
Yes.
I can't remember his name. We'll think of it.
Sam
we'll go through the alphabet while we're doing this, and I'll suddenly yell it out. My wife always laughs because she knows when I'm trying to think of a name, I go silent as I go through the alphabet trying to figure out the name. Anyway, look, let's continue. And
Sam Stubbs.
Yeah, that's it. The Green Party, they're being a little bit cautious about their list.
Thank God. It's only just occurred to them, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, you just sort of think of Benjamin Doyle, Darling Tana. Who else did we have? Elizabeth Kitty, the Golarers, Garderman. Gee, they've had some doozies, haven't they? And look, if anybody falls out of the Green Party now, the next woman on the list is actually a pole dancer. She launched her campaign for the last election, pole dancing. So they're tightening the list. Were you in Parliament? Yeah, no, you were. You were part of that. How do you truly vet a list candidate. I mean, it must be very, very difficult.
Oh, it's a nightmare because you're literally desperate for candidates, a small party, and desperate to fill out the list. And you might be good on the top. The MPs, you know them.
Yeah, you've seen them in action.
But you have no idea. And of course, in the old days, you were an MP elected from your electorate, and locals knew you. And the parties were big, so you'd have, literally thousands in an electorate who were members who would choose who would represent them. That doesn't happen on a list, and you get almost complete strangers. And at the same time, you're trying to balance your region and get a nice mix. And then the members have got to have a vote. But every political party has an exclusion clause. So, you do your best and you have an ability to cut someone out. So I was surprised that the Greens had never had that before. It might explain a bit of their trouble. Having said that, you've only got to see their speeches and their protests to see the sort of pool they're drawing from. It's not good.
It's one thing that I would change if I was running MMP is I would decrease the amount of list MPs, the proportion of list MPs, because I want people from basically who have been voted in by their local representatives so that they are representative of the area rather than representative of the political party.
You could do away with all the list MPs.
Yeah.
And actually just have the party vote the number that it got proportionately. You follow me? So you'd only have, I don't know how many electorates we have now. Say we have 65 electorates.
60, 70 or something, yeah.
Yeah. You'd have 70 MPs. And you might be you might be that party with only 2 MPs, but you carry 11 votes. That gives you the proportionality. You don't have the numbers to do select, but you carry the votes. Because I'm with you. If you're going to have proportionality, you don't actually need the dead weight of the list MPs.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's keep going. And we were talking about X and Parliament. The Clerk of the House, who is under Jerry Brownlee, I assume, he made a unilateral decision and he took Parliament off X, which is formerly Twitter. Basically tossed his toys and said, we're not going on X because we don't like it and don't like Musk. And look, it sort of highlighted that a lot of the left have gone off X ever since Musk took it over and made it open. And the fact of the matter is it's very popular. And because the media have got off it as well. I mean, Stuff withdrew from it. And they had 300,000 plus followers, but Stuff don't want to talk to anybody on X, which, I mean, to me, really just reveals just how radically left-wing they are, even though they try to hide it. But that's typical of most media. Most of the media aren't on X anymore. They've tossed their toys. They're on Facebook, even though we've now learnt that Facebook has been targeting young kids, and we know that there's major issues with the content on Facebook. So what's your thoughts around just the fact that Parliament have withdrawn from it? Because actually, I meant to, while you're talking, I might just go and check how many followers they've actually got on Parliament. But basically, democracy means that you have to put your information even out to places that you don't agree with.
I was shocked by it. I was shocked that David Wilson, the clerk, had the power to do that, or the authority to do that. Turns out he does. But then I was shocked at his stupidity that he actually didn't run it past the Parliament, the business committee, which he reports to. He should have at least said, here's what I'm thinking of doing. What's the feedback like? He never did that. He's got the government offside. But let's back up the truck a bit and think about why they're doing this. And this is where it gets very dark. Because on the one hand, Elon Musk became deeply associated with Donald Trump. And for the media and the left wing, that's enough to despise a guy. Remember, he put his heart and love out to you, and that was suddenly a Nazi salute, according to the world's news media, including our own, and Helen Clark. I mean, it's just disgusting slander. But the reason that they hate X is a simple one. They say it's because of porn or whatever. I'm on X the whole time. I've never seen anything. I put my X on security, so I actually, if there's something untoward pop up, I actually have to choose it. I've never had a problem with it, much less so than Facebook. But they don't worry about Facebook. They don't worry about Pornhub, for that matter.
Yeah,
But all of a sudden they're worried about X. So why are they worried about X? I don't think it's even because Elon Musk supported Donald Trump. They hate X with a passion because it's free speech.
Yeah.
Absolutely free speech. If Elon Musk hadn't bought X, I believe we would have no free speech at the moment, because we know now, thanks to Elon Musk buying X, that Twitter and Facebook were being told who to take down by their respective governments. And basically it was political dissent that was being taken down. So that would have continued. But once you had one little crack in the dam, the whole edifice came crashing down. So they hate X with a passion because Elon Musk won't let them control them or control the platform. And it is literally a free-for-all. That's why I love it. You can be posting there away, right? And it's just, I know you're on it, and I love your posts. They're fabulous. And I love how you engage with other posters. And you couldn't imagine that happening over at Stuffy Old Stuff or the Granny Herald or TV1 News, because they're too busy running political propaganda. X is political propaganda.
I just had a look. They got 35,000 followers. So, I mean, and I'd say it would be all the political geeks who wanted to know about private members' bills. And, I mean, that's why I followed it.
So it's a political decision by the clerk of the House, and it's a political decision against free speech.
One of my mates is Alex Berenson, who we brought over in 2019 on the cannabis referendum. I don't know if you follow him, but he's got 560,000 followers on X now, but he was actually taken off X because he was questioning the vaccine. And look, he wasn't anti-vax, he was simply questioning it. And Biden actually instructed X to shut down his account. And he is now suing Biden. It's now Berenson versus Trump by virtue of Trump being in office. But yeah, watch that space, because that is going to be a very...
It was Twitter that took him down.
Yeah, Twitter, yeah.
And Elon Musk reinstated him.
Yeah, so, Elon Musk reinstated a few people, including Trump. Although Trump doesn't really post on X, he does it on his Truth Social, and the media just watch Truth Social for all his caps rants, and he always finishes with "Thank you for your attention to this matter." It's just very funny. He trolls the media. He trolls the media. They don't realize it, but he literally winds them up. He even did it yesterday in the speech. He got in trouble because he suggested that he would give himself an award, it's some particular award for fighting on the front lines of the battlefield. And he said, I want to give myself that award, and I know the fake news is going to go out and say Trump wants to give himself this award. He talked about it yesterday in the State of the Union. He's just very funny. Look, let's keep going. I'm fascinated by this one. So there is as a result of that attack on Winston Peters' house, smashing the glass, actually injuring his Labrador, which I'm very upset about because I'm a Labrador lover. They've introduced a law which means you can't protest outside politicians' homes. Now, on one hand, I understand and agree with that. I think homes should be off to political protests because you don't want a whole lot of pro-Hamas protesters outside your place, lefty wacky greenies outside your house. But the interesting thing is that the opposition says that a ban would be chilling on free speech. And I did post today on X that it's highly ironic coming from the left, because they're the ones who have criminalised anyone who bothers to pray silently or offer to support pregnant mums who are going to an abortion clinic to kill their unborn child. Well, yeah, so, it's chilling depending on whether the fridge is on, according to the Greens. What's your thoughts on this about just stopping, basically it tends to be the radical left turning up to your home?
I think it's critical. Never used to be, and it's very, very sad that it's come to this. If you'd asked me about this law 10 years ago, I would have said, don't be daft, because you'd never need it, because people were respectful, even of those they disagreed with. But there's a level of malice and a level of violence in politics now that we've never seen before. I've never seen it. And we've seen it play out in the States, and it's here now, where protesters are actually screaming and prepared for violence. Even here in New Zealand, we saw that at Posey Parker. And of course, the funny thing is, you're not doing it to protect so much the MP or the Prime Minister, but actually their family and the neighbours, because you don't want these rabid people outside or in the street with that menace and violence underpinning them. That's what horrifies me. And so we need it. I mean, we're going to run into some serious political violence before long.
Yeah.
Sad.
Okay. Right. I'm fascinated to know your answer to this one. 4-year election terms. So basically, the government have run out of time for us to hold a referendum on this. But do you support 4-year election term? Term? No.
No, I'm a 3-year term guy. It's what we're used to. If you're good government, you get back in. That's the experience in New Zealand. In my lifetime, I think the only one-term government was the 1972-75 Labour government. And it was very good that it was a one-term government because it was a shocker.
Was that Bill Rowling?
Well, Bill Rowling and Norman Kirk.
Ah, yes, that's right.
They were shocking. Yep. And so they got booted out. Everyone else, if you're doing a fair job, you get voted back in. So you get 6 years. Prime ministers come in and they bank on 6 years. So no, I don't agree with a 4-year term. That was a bit of a political play. Clearly, the support parties that put this into the coalition agreement weren't all that keen on it because they didn't push it along enough.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Some good news is that the puberty blocker test, the lab rat test they were going to do on kids who thought they were the opposite sex isn't going to happen in the UK. There's safety concerns. And as somebody, let me just tell you about the UK. As someone rightly pointed out, there are thousands of kids who have been experimented on already with puberty blockers in the UK. They could simply go to them and find out what has been the damage done to them. So they don't need to use new kids for a new study. But the interesting thing is that when Simeon Brown, the Minister of Health, said that they're going to pause puberty blockers in New Zealand because there just wasn't the evidence of both their effectiveness and their safety, they basically said that they were going to wait for the outcome of this research in the UK. But the research in the UK is now on hold. So the good news is that Simeon Brown has got the perfect out because he can just say, well, until you do the research on the safety and efficacy of puberty blockers, we ain't going nowhere. And that's a good thing.
Tremendous thing. But I mean, what a shocking thought that we're even having this debate. And I was shocked to see Hilary Cass upset that they weren't having the trial. The trial seems to me to be heinous. It wasn't that long ago we had what was called the unfortunate experiment, where a gynecologist set out trials on women with cervical cancer and
That's right.
basically ran 2 groups but didn't inform them. And that was considered quite rightly wrong. Well, what's more vulnerable than a young child? And you've only got to say the term to realise how shocking it is, the idea that you can block puberty. But I've been reading, is it Ian McIntyre? No, what's his name? Alistair McIntyre's book, After Virtue. Have you read that book, Bob?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's an amazing book because it basically explains how our debate about ethics and morality has fallen down since the Enlightenment, when we did away without thinking about human purpose. It's having a deep influence on me, this book. So Aristotle and the Christians had a very strong view about having a human purpose. And you could frame a moral debate and an argument, even pre-Christian, but post-Christian certainly. But the Enlightenment came along and they built science without relying on God. And they thought they could do the same with ethics, and they totally failed. And so as he called it in 1981, we left with emotion, just emotivism. And so this is entirely an emotive argument where we can't explain and have a proper discussion. So on one side are those people that says, it's my body, I can do what I want. Little kid can do what he wants with his body or her body. And then there's our side, which is no, we have a human purpose. And it's to flourish. And it's to have joy. It's to have a family. It's to have children. It's to propagate. It's to be married. It's to be productive.
Yep.
And on the other side, it's all just what feels right. And so there's a big debate about what is your human purpose. And it's had a deep impact on me. And I can't believe that people can't see that we're not standing up for the most vulnerable people in our midst, not only with abortion, but with children born who are having their development stunted chemically by adults. I mean, it's just so, to me, so appalling. And then the very idea that you say, oh, well, we've got to figure out what's right, shall we have a trial? We don't need a trial for that. Clearly, it is wrong. If you have any basic of human decency, of any understanding of what it is to be a human, of your development, what society in history has thought it's a good idea to change sex? It just happened last week, didn't it?
Well, I spoke to Chloe Cole earlier this week, and she's got her case coming up in California next year against Kaiser Permanente. And look, she could be in for millions, but she said, I'm sure it would be a blessing for her to get it after all she's gone through. But she said, look, I'm not here for the money. I'm here to shut down the industry. And of course, Trump rightly pointed out in the State of the Union speech last night about a girl who had been sneaked away from her parents at 14 to try to be the other sex, and the authorities weren't going to give the child back to the parents unless they acknowledged that she was a man or a male, and they refused. But anyway, the girl's detransitioned, looks very healthy, was there being honoured, and Chloe Cole is very grateful to Trump for basically turning the ship around, and all these gender clinics are closing down. So,
and isn't that brilliant about Trump? Because Chris Luxon wouldn't do that because he'd be scared of, quote, the optics.
Yeah.
And here's Donald Trump doing what's right.
Yeah.
And then you ask yourself, which one is the moral person in office? And
exactly.
Chris Luxon comes up so short, so very, very short. He's allowing kids to be damaged because he's worried about what? The election?
The media.
I mean, and he's a Christian. Oh.
Well, it's the art of politics, isn't it? And I guess there's this. I mean, that's the reason that I couldn't go into politics, Rodney, because I wouldn't have done the party line. I wouldn't have compromised on anything. So no party would have wanted me.
Not now,
that's
but
okay.
in the old days, of course, you could have been a very successful MP.
In a local electorate, yeah.
In a local electorate, and you'd be in your party. They'd have to put up with you.
Yeah. And
on all these issues, you'd have free speech in Parliament. The party wouldn't shut you down, and you'd have a free vote on these issues.
Yeah.
And they couldn't force it out of you. And plenty of MPs did that, and there were plenty of good Christian MPs, and it was a good system. MMP, it's a curse.
Now, I was distracted. I was looking all around. People probably saw that, and that's because I was just trying to Google that book, but I wasn't able to find it. Just remind me the name of the book, and I'll look it up after this.
Alistair McIntyre, After Virtue.
After Virtue, Alistair McIntyre. Okay, I will sort that out.
It's a tough book to read, So
it's okay. I've read Bruce Logan's, and I needed a Roger Thesaurus to read that. So,
but
you know, he's just so intelligent. These guys that are so intelligent, and it's just way above me. I'm just a basic.
I've got a great story about them because I've been studying it, and there's great reviews, and there's a lot of lectures on it and podcasts, and you can ask Grok for a summary, which I've all done.
Oh, that's handy.
But he was a hardcore Marxist and a member of the Communist Party in Great Britain. And he was a philosopher, and he worked on this book, wrote this book, and he became, first of all, a Thomist, and then went back to his Catholic faith.
Wow.
So it was a big circle, his journey. And the book has, to me, has been quite profound because he basically rips up David Hume and other thinkers, the utilitarians, for this idea that you can't derive an is from an ought. And he says the reason is that is you've given up any concept of human purpose. And so you can't decide what's right or good unless you can establish what humans are for. Powerful point, right? And as soon as you establish what humans are for, then you can decide what's right and wrong. Why courage might be a good thing. Why self-sacrifice might be a good thing. And of course, a Christian knows precisely why humans are here. But how could you know what humans are for and go along with puberty blockers? Yeah.
Oh, exactly. All right. Look, we're just about out of time. Just on this issue, because I just want to ask you about this, is that the Law Commission decided to go off and do some investigation into whether people who wanted to change their sex deserve special rights, and that you couldn't say things like only women can get pregnant and that only women should be allowed in female changing rooms. The Law Commission have come back with a report, and the government, I want to just ask you about the government's response. So basically they've just said, look, it's not on our work program. We haven't got time. In football terms, they've kicked it for touch. And the Law Commission is about to get a new boss, which is Judith Collins. So what do you reckon? What do you think the Law Commission's going to do? What direction is it going to head? And are we going to see this paper back in the legislative realm? I mean, maybe if Greens and Labour and Pāti Māori form the next government, they don't need this paper. They'll go down this radical path anyway, and we'll all be having to use preferred pronouns or be locked up. So, yeah, what's your prediction?
Well, the report's been done and it's out there. So, yes, the left would go for this in a heartbeat. And, of course, Judith Collins will work very hard to turn that ship around, and I hope she's successful, because writing reports like that shows you've got no grasp of the law. It's also the case, too, that we shouldn't actually have these so-called human rights. It's just a proliferation of special claims and special privilege. Of course, we should all have our rights to our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But you don't have special rights because of your gender. You don't have special rights because of your race, colour. All these things are wrong. And to be honest, we actually need the right to discriminate. So I'm always appalled that we can't discriminate. That's a true part of being human. But those, of course, who are trying to remodel society want to stop that because they want to direct us what we can do. So I'm a big believer in the power of discrimination. And you make your own choices and bear the consequence. I think. Well,
the ironic part, Rodney, is that we still discriminate on marriage. I mean, they say love is love and marriage equality, but we still discriminate because people under a certain age can't marry. You can't marry more than one person.
Of course.
You can't marry a relative. So we discriminate already. It's the word discrimination is used as a weapon.
That's right. And again, if you read Alistair McIntyre's book, you'll get a grasp of that. Did I say MacArthur, is it?
I don't know, but I'm going to have to Google it anyway. I can't find it. I've been looking for it. My laptop's died on me. I can't even get comments at the moment. As soon as I Googled that book, so it must be a good one.
How wonderful it is where you're living in this age, Bob, where the craziness has reached full crazy.
Yeah.
I think. They'll get crazier. And we have Donald Trump showing that it's possible to stand up against it and succeed. And we're seeing the tide turn. You're on a roll. Family First is on a roll. The legacy media would love to be able to do what you're doing, and they can't. And we have things like Grok. Goodness knows whether it's going to end up like the Terminator or something else. But at the moment, it's actually maximum truth-telling. And so you can run this stuff through Grok, and Bob's your uncle. By the way, I was taking the kids into school, and I dropped them off, and I was driving back home, and I put Grok on. It could be anything. It could be Gemini. There's other AIs too. And I put it on speak mode, which I hadn't done before. And I spent the 30 minutes talking about this book and asking it questions. And honest to goodness, Bob, it was like having the author sitting in the car with me. It was uncanny. I learned so much in 30 minutes about that book. Amazing.
Good all. Okay, we're out of time. Rodney, always a privilege and a pleasure to have you as a guest panelist. And I'm sure you must be rostered for Straight Talk in a week or two. So thank you for your time.
Very, very honoured to be with you, Bob. You do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry that we didn't get to some of the comments of you watching. My laptop has completely died, so I'm going to have to get that sorted so I can watch the comments. But anyway, thank you for watching. Daybreak tomorrow morning at 7:30. And have a good night, Rodney. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.